Today we got a special guest sitting in with us in the studio, Mr. Jonathan Richey, former quarterback at the University of Alabama, and he walked on and had some serious contributions there at the university. We're going to be talking to him because he's not just doing things to contribute in terms of his work, but also to give back to the community because of the blessing that he had to be at the capstone as a football player. So we're going to be joining him. Good morning. Welcome into the program, Jonathan.
Appreciate it, Martin. Thanks for having me this morning.
Oh, thank you for taking time, and we're going to break down that camp in just a moment. But I have to start off every show like I do each and every day. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Make sure you go out today, take some time to notice someone, love someone, and don't complain, but be the difference you want to see in the world today. And that's exactly what Jonathan is doing with the camp. And so our program today, we're going to be kind of a free-for-all Friday. We're going to talk a little baseball. We're going to talk a little softball. Coach Murphy, we talked about it. He did it. I'm going to challenge the Alabama baseball fans. I'm going to give a shout-out to my boy. I had to ask Jonathan or James where they feel, but I'm going to give a shout-out to my boy LeBron James later on in the program. Also, got a quarterback in here, so I got to talk about this quarterback stuff on the capstone. So we're going to be all over the place, and if you want to be a part of the program, you can get in on it at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. Get in on the conversation, and also, like I said, you can post on Facebook Live. Good morning, Daryl. Welcome into the program. Glad you were able to join us. Well, Jonathan, as we said, be the difference you want to make in the world. I started every show off with the exact same challenge. I know your faith, you know my faith, so we know we have that in common. We also have playing at the capstone in common, and I think we both, to a certain degree, have accepted that challenge of let's not complain about the world. Let's go out and be a difference. And so tell us a little bit about the 3rd and 17 challenge. I know it's coming up June 3rd, next Saturday. It's a half-day camp and some great things. So tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about what you guys do there.
All right, just a little bit about the camp. I mean, we my theory was whenever I started it, I was looking to make a difference. I ran a camp in North Alabama for a couple of years just as a fundraiser for my school. Kind of got away from that a little bit, and then looking to make a difference there locally here in the community. You see a lot of focus on baseball and other sports here locally. There was nothing really brought in from a football standpoint, and kind of
interesting, isn't it?
It is very interesting now that you say that. But kind of the focus on it is faith, football, and life, and just kind of correlating all those together and bringing that together. And I've got a good core of guys that come in and help me with the camp. That's the other blessing part of it, because some of these guys come from Huntsville, Cleveland County, different areas in the state, and so they produce in a one-day camp. And so that's the other thing. It's only a one-day camp. It's from 9 to 1. Doesn't take up the entire day for most people, and it's been well received recently. And so it's just one of the focal points is for me to give back, to do something within the community and just help those kids.
Faith, football, and life. We do a thing every Wednesday, Johnson & Marshall Christian Moment, Christian Athlete of the Week, and sometimes I've had people say, well, why do you talk about your faith in terms of on a sports show? And I said, well, other guys talk about what they do. They talk about going to concerts. They talk about going to bars and different, and that's their business. Mm-hmm. But my faith is a part of who I am, and that's why I was able to play the game. So I love the fact that that's built into your camp, that it's not just you can be the best football player in the world, but you and I come from the mindset there's a reason you were the best football player in the world, and we believe that it's to bring glory to God. So how do you kind of incorporate faith, football, and life into this for our camp? What are some of the things that happen during the camp, and then we'll get to how and who you want to be there.
Yeah, it's simple. I mean, Colossians, the 3:17 is I had to bring something. I was number 17 in Alabama.
I laugh because last week, normally Scotty Hollins is the one who does the segment with us but he was out. So I had to fill in. I mean, not fill in, but I had to do the segment. And I specifically asked the question, what does Jesus have to do with football? I said nothing but everything. Yeah. And it was because whatever you do out of Colossians 3:17. So go ahead and share that.
That's
again.
where the 3:17 comes from, Colossians 3:17. And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord, giving thanks to God the Father through Him. So whether that's in your work, in your radio show, in football, elementary school, professional career, it doesn't really matter. We all have a responsibility. And what I basically do is I've aligned the camp basically in segments. And basically we'll go through in the 4-hour camp. They'll learn all the fundamentals. They'll get to be, kids these age, K through 8th grade, they may not know exactly what position they're going to play. So they're going to learn all the positions.
And they shouldn't as a whole. I mean, they shouldn't.
Well, they really, there's not a whole lot of specialization, but from that standpoint, there's a part where we'll do a rotation. We'll actually go through and do some warm-ups and agilities that we'll do for about 45 minutes. Then we'll break, and then we cover 3 things: alignment, assignment, and execution. And then there's a verse that goes along with that. So during the break, we'll share that, what that means. So, in football, there's alignment, assignment, and execution. But in life, there's an alignment, assignment, and execution as well.
Let's camp on that for a second, Larry. When you're teaching alignment from a sports standpoint, what are you teaching the kids?
Well, proper steps, footwork, those kind of things. Last year, Antonio Langham was there, helped out at the camp and spent a lot of time with the DBs and kind of just working on footwork and technique. And those are some of the things it's the bread and butter of football, right? I mean, it's the 40 and how much you lift and weight, but a lot of times how you whether you're going to win or lose comes down to the fundamentals, and that's technique. So
yeah, and it's funny how people don't realize that you could start off with the wrong alignment and do everything else perfect, but because you for instance, if the defense, you talk about DBs, if you got help to the inside and you line up on the inside of the player, you just shut down the other 10 players and their responsibility because you gave the guy a free release to the outside where you have no help, and that all started with alignment. But in the same way, life can be treat us that same way as and so how does alignment in life apply to what you're teaching the kids?
What I'm teaching them is alignment is John 3:16, and that's the verse that we utilize with that scripture. Basically, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him shall not perish and have eternal life. So that's the alignment part. So we're coordinating. The alignment is, if I get it as a quarterback, I have my feet are shoulder width apart. I'm on the balls of my feet. I stand up and I look. I'm going to read the defense. I'm going to run the play as called, or I'm going to flip it over. So I'm aligned properly. I remember my senior year in football. We had a drill on Friday nights before the games. Is that you were called on, and you actually had to verbalize your footwork, your steps, call the play. What do I do? And so, like, if it was a power play, I received walk up to the line of scrimmage, look at the defense, call it. It's a 52, whatever it may be, based on the alignment of the front 4 or front 5 that's down there. And then basically we would come back, go through the motions. I would open up to my right. I would tuck the ball in my belly. I would chin it. I would walk back, take my steps, handed it, put it into the belly of the tailback, carry out my so you had to verbalize each step so that you showed accountability to your teammates around you that you took care of your job. Right.
Yeah, and it's funny, we talking about alignment this morning. My passage of scripture was Romans 9:10, and it talks about that you must confess with your mouth, in other words, that Jesus is Lord, and then believe it in your heart. In other words, you can't just think about it, you have to verbalize that alignment that you're talking about out of John 3:16. So the next part of the camp is you teach them assignment. Okay. So when it comes to assignment, how does that play out in terms of what they're going to be doing in the camp and everything? If you're just not joining us, we're speaking with Jonathan Richey, former quarterback at the University of Alabama, the producer, overseer, director of 3rd and 17 Challenge at football camp right here in Tuscaloosa on next Saturday, June 3rd. Great camp, inexpensive camp. We're going to be giving you all those details and how you can be a part of it. But he's walking through alignment, assignment, and execution. Now, how do you teach them assignment, and why is that important for them?
Well, once, we talked about the execution in John 3:16. Assignment goes with Acts 20:24, basically where it's basically saying, my only aim is to finish the race and complete the task the Lord Jesus has given me, the task of testifying to the good news of grace. It's just sharing. So in football, you're one of the key things that you focus on is your task. I mean, you can line up correctly, but you got to know the assignment. If it's a toss sweep right and you're running left, then you're not going to necessarily be in the right position. So the assignment is every play there's an assignment given. So those are one of the key things that we look at from that standpoint. The assignment part in life is just our call is to go. So I mean that's the call, and in everything we do, that's the key thing. People think they've got to be in a certain place to testify or whatever it may be, or share the good news, but they don't necessarily have to be. It could be sitting in a coffee shop or standing in line at the grocery store. It doesn't really matter.
Be on go all the time. I tell people is God, G-O, good news, G-O, and the gospel, G-O. All three of those words start with go. I think he was trying to communicate a message to us. So that's our alignment is doing our job, knowing our job, knowing our job. Our assignment is what that specific job is, and now to the execution part. How does that play out in your camp, and how does that play out in life?
The execution part is from Hebrews 13:20 through 21, and it says, "Now may the God of peace, through the blood of this eternal covenant brought back from the dead, Lord Jesus, the great shepherd of the sheep, equip you with everything good for doing his will. And may he work in us what is pleasing to him through Jesus Christ, and to whom the glory forever and ever." So, when I look at that is, you're aligned properly. You've got the assignment. You just got to go execute. I mean, it's just as simple. When you played the 92 championship game, your job was to block for Derek Lassett, right?
Right.
So you had the execution part of it. So you broke the huddle. Hey, we know what to do. You lined properly. Now it's just time to go do it.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of key thing.
And that's really where the rubber meets the road a lot of times, between success as a football player, or success as an athlete, or success as an individual. What I love about this camp is the three principles. Now, you're teaching them specific football stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But all three of those principles exist in every area of our life, from individual, but also these other athletes. This is not just for football players. If you're an athlete and you play baseball or anything, you can learn from these principles. So tell our listeners how they can get their kids involved, where it's at, and everything, some of the specifics of this camp. Once again, if you're just now joining us, we're speaking with former quarterback at the University of Alabama, Jonathan Richey from Geraldine High School.
That's right.
Yeah, you got to give a shout out to I'm from Center, Alabama, so every time I get a chance to give a shout out to Center, I have to. So from Geraldine High School, and we'll talk a little bit about your time here on the other side, but this camp, June 3rd.
It's June 3rd. It's at Chapel Hill Baptist Church, located up Highway 43, just before you get to County High. There's an Eventbrite where you can go online and actually order tickets. If the parents want to stick around too, they're welcome to. There's Chick-fil-A we're working with Chick-fil-A with the meals. Okay. That's included. So it's $25, which is relatively inexpensive for a half-a-day camp. That includes their shirt, registration fee, and their food. So, so pretty good. We try to keep the cost relatively low. So, or you can go into Chapel Hill. There's a link on their website. I've also got it on my Facebook page, where I'll probably share it again this afternoon, just kind of giving an update. So, and I've also got, if you think about it, if you want to know about the camp, there's not a specific. You come in and I'm a running back. That's all I'm going to do. The cool thing is if you're K through 8th grade, we're going to give you an opportunity to be a quarterback. We're going to give you an opportunity to be a running back. We're going to give you an opportunity to be a lineman. So we've also got some equipment from some of the local high schools that they give us just for the one-day camp. They've been Tuscaloosa County High has worked with us in the past to kind of donate some equipment for that day. So that's been beneficial football-wise, because we don't, a lot of churches don't keep a lot of tackling dummies on in their equipment room. So so that's just one of the areas, and we kind of do that. And every opportunity is a learning. So about 4 years ago, we ran our first camp. You learn some things from that, and so afterwards, Darius Gilbert, who is gracious, he's helped me every year.
Right.
He's kind of been a stalwart there. He was a linebacker at Alabama when I was there. We came in about the same time. And so he's coached in different arenas and different high schools around the state. And so he's been there each and every year. And so he kind of said, hey, why don't we do this? This would be an idea. He's also worked at Jeremiah Castile camps in the past. And so it just kind of gives everybody an opportunity to kind of focus on not just one specific area, but give them an opportunity to play every position.
Who are some of the other guys that's going to be there to help you out? I know there'll be some that will come on Saturday that you don't even know yet. But
David Daniel, I don't know if you know him. He's agreed to participate. I'm always like, when I go to A Club events, I was like, hey, man, let me get your number and so I can reach out, just like when I saw you in the gym that day. He's scheduled to be there. Darius, like I said, Ben Howell, who was a running back.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think if you remember Ben, I think he was one of the guys, if you remember in the Alabama-Auburn game in like 2012 when the score was, much in our favor, he scored one of the touchdowns toward the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's a running back from Gordo that's going to help. Also have Todd Whitmore, who played. He was a defensive lineman who said he was going to come down and play. Matt Champion, who's a coach at Hale County, is going to come in. I know Matt from our time when I volunteered at ACA. And then Dustin Cooper goes to my church, and he's at Northridge, and he's volunteered to help out some as well. So we've got some both high school guys that coach high school, and then some
and that's what I was going to say. This is former players and some high school coaches from the area, and you can be a part of the 3rd and 17 Challenge, Faith, Football, and Life by Jonathan Richey. We're going to continue to give you some information on that. So stay tuned with the Blitz as we move throughout. Sitting in studio with me this morning is former Alabama quarterback Jonathan Richey. Walked on during a couple different an era right there that was a different time for Alabama football. So we want to talk to him about that as well. I'm gonna throw him out of his comfort zone. We are going to talk a little baseball because that's kind of the news, and a little softball. But definitely, I'm gonna have to break my own censorship, James. Remember, I've censored myself and refuse to talk about Jalen and Tua. And see, it's been so long I can't even – now I'm even struggling with his first name. Tua and Jalen, I kind of passed that conversation along. But I got a quarterback in the room, so I'm going to have to talk about that.
Do we need a pronunciation guide? Do we need a pronunciation guide for Tua, just like Tua?
It is. As a matter of fact, Ryan Fowler has typed it in. It's Tua Tagovailoa. And we have it broken down in how to phonetically announce it, Tagovailoa. Of course, now we're going to have his brother coming next year, whose name is just as interesting. So, yeah, I told Saban he's going to have to start recruiting some more Smiths and Jones. But no, Jonathan Richey, we got him in. He's sitting in today talking to me about 3rd and 17 Challenge, Faith, Football, and Life, a camp that he hosts right here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Ironically, not a lot of football camps in Tuscaloosa, in the mecca of college football. It's a really, really great campus, K through 8th grade, hitting all of the positions. If you're a kid, please be careful not to pigeonhole your child at too early of an age when they're starting to play the game of football. Let them experiment. Don't let coaches say you are this. Let them learn, grow, and experiment. And that's the beauty about this camp, because the kids get an opportunity to do a lot of different things in a safe environment where they're not going to be judged and criticized, but be given an opportunity to be taught the alignment of the game, the assignment of the game, and how to execute at it. So that'll be from 9 to 11 at Chapel Hill.
9 to 1.
9 to 1. 9 to 1. 9 to 1. I cut off one, added an extra one. 9 to 1 on Saturday, June 3rd. At Faith, Football, and Life. It's $25, but here's the deal. $25 and you get a camp with former Alabama football players and high school coaches doing the teaching. You get that's your registration. That's your T-shirt. And Chick-fil-A. I mean, it kind of sound like you're paying us to come. But K through 8 is a great camp. We'll talk about that more and tell you where you can go and find out more information. Worst case, like I said, go out and check out that interview we had, and you'll be able to get all the details of the camp and what your child could learn. Well, Jonathan, before we move on, you played at a time of transition. Were you under Dubose initially, and then you were under Franchione? Because I think you 98, 99.
I was there from 97 to 01.
97. I knew it was 01. I couldn't remember if you came in 97.
So Dubose was coming in. He was just, following the Stallings retirement. And then from 96, and then I came in. I spent 4 years under him and 1 year under Fran.
Okay. And so you played the quarterback position, and I know we label players as walk-ons, but I've always admired anybody that paid to go through. That's what I always tell people. I said I have much respect for walk-on. Let me ask you this. Right now we see guys who come here, Jonathan, in terms of 5 stars coming here knowing that they're going to be behind other great players. To me, that's no different than what players like you have done for years. In other words, there's guys like yourself who were talented enough, good enough to go and be on scholarship and potentially be the man at several other places, but something about the capstone. What makes a guy like yourself that could have played somewhere else come to the University of Alabama and play walk on at the University of Alabama and play football here?
I think it's like a lot of guys. It's just the passion to you want to be here. You want to be a part of the Capstone University. You talked about not the greatest time in Alabama football history. Probably wasn't. I think my record while I was when we were here was like 31-31, something like that. So.
But you did win a championship.
We did win a championship. Beat Florida twice in '99. So.
That's right.
And Steve Spurrier was the coach then too.
Yeah. So that's the funny part about Alabama is even when they're down, they still have great moments even in their down periods. But go back to why I cut you off on that.
No, that's fine. I mean, the why is basically ever since I was little, it was a dream of mine. So and then I knew some folks that had an opportunity to kind of here's what you need to do to prepare to be there. At the time, unique story is, most people probably don't know this, but Coach Pruitt and I are second cousins.
Okay.
So he was a GA here at the time. And so it was kind of lining up for the same time. And so his dad actually helped me put together kind of a highlight reel and some other things to kind of prepare myself to be here. And so I went through that process and did that. But, when I was little, for example, when you played, I would look at the programs, remember guys' names, where they were from, what high school they played at, their stats, I started the first game I attended in Tuscaloosa was against Kentucky in '89. It was like a 15-3 game or something like that. But that was my first. I scored my first touchdown in that game because nobody scored, and then we get to the goal line. I had one carry, one touchdown, and Kentucky played us close that game because that touchdown was later in the game. It wasn't. It was like a field goal, and it was just it's like with very little time left in the game.
So,
but I mean that's for me. Everybody's different. I also had opportunities to probably transfer out at some point too, but I'd been committed there. I started there, wanted to get my degree there. So it was more than just about football,
right?
But having that degree and finishing what I started. So,
yeah. And speaking with Jonathan Richey, former Geraldine High School standout, former quarterback, walk on at the University of Alabama. And you did get to you didn't play as much as you would have liked, but you were a contributing factor to your career here at Alabama. What was it like the first time that you actually got to run out in Bryant-Denny as a member of it? Because that's a dream come true, regardless of whether you do it your first time on the sideline or the last time on the sideline.
That's right. I mean, the first game I actually dressed was against East Carolina in '98. It was at Birmingham, though, back when we went back and forth.
Yeah.
And we played them, and that was a close game, too. But I remember, it was just like your heart pounding, pumping, and just running out and just screaming your head off is basically what you were doing. So, but the first snap I ever took, actually, in a game was against Florida in the ACC championship game. And, I kind of was on I signaled in place from the sideline. Mm-hmm. And so I got on the headset and told Coach Stubbs, I was like, we're up 34-7 at that point. I said, hey, can I get one? And that's the kind of first time I've ever asked for something like that. He said, yeah, grab your helmet. And I had to go find it. I didn't know where it was. I went and grabbed the helmet, and ran in. Didn't realize where we were. We were on the 2-yard line going out. I took a snap. We're running a 28 power, hand to Sean Bohan, and I think he ran like 20, 25 yards.
Hold on, your first snap, you're backed up?
I'm in the, yeah.
Oh, you're pretty much in the end zone.
My feet were in the end zone.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
I didn't realize that at the time. The cool thing is my cousin was at the game, and so I've got a blown-up picture of that snap. So it's got the score in the background, Florida in their white uniforms, and me just kind of getting under center. So
That's awesome.
It was pretty good. So I did that play, and then I ran off the next play, and that was it
Yeah.
for the whole 99 season. But in 2000, my first time, I was the holder from 2000, 2001. The very first snap I took in that position was in the Rose Bowl when we played UCLA.
Wow.
So pretty good first time moment.
I was going to say, you got some very powerful first time moments. Speaking with Jonathan Richey, former quarterback, walk-on player here at the University of Alabama, 98 to 2001, former SEC champion. Not a whole lot of guys can say that. And a lot more than other schools, but still, when you look at the 100-plus year history of Alabama, being on one of those teams is something you'll never forget. We're going to continue this conversation. He's going to be with me throughout the morning, so we'll continue that conversation right here on your home for Alabama sports. Jonathan Richey, former quarterback at the University of Alabama, former SEC champion, former Geraldine High School All-Star standout, has his 3rd and 17 challenge, Faith Football and Life, a camp that he has set up for your child to be a part of from 9 to 1, a lunch included, registration from 8 to 8:45, only $25, but that includes registration, that includes your shirt, that includes your lunch. And so it is an absolute great deal. You'll get a chance, your child will get a chance to be a part of all of the positions. They teach them alignment, assignment, and execution. A great camp. And like I said, I love it because it starts with faith, ends with life, and throws some football in between. And that's what I love about it. Jonathan Richey, you can find out more about that. Jonathan, welcome back in to the Blitz, man. Tell our listeners who just now joined us where they can go to get information if they want to have their child participate. And I love it. The parents can stay and be a part of it as well.
Yeah, there's information on Eventbrite. If you do on Eventbrite, search 3rd and 17. There's a link on there that with some events that you can go in and register. And there's also, you can go to chapelhillbc.org. There's some information there. You can go by the church or call the church and get registration there as well. And there's also, if you're on Facebook, you can look me up, Jonathan Richey. I've got the event posted there, and there's many people that's sharing the event right now. And just there's information about it there as well. So you can go in and it's got all the information, what you need. Basically, you just need a child, some cleats, and we provide the shirt that comes along with it. And then, like you said, the food. So it's a great time. It's a great time for the kids. They seem to really get it. Last year we had a child. We had actually 3 kids come from Fife, Alabama,
right?
Which is almost over 2 hours away. So so there's kids from all over the state because 2 years ago we had a kid come from Huntsville because his dad was committed to take him to a football camp every weekend in June. Mm-hmm. We were the only game in town that weekend across the state.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other things going on. So. It's a great opportunity to intermingle. We've got some really good guys that devote part of their day from their work, their family, to come in and just give back a little bit. And so it's an awesome opportunity for them.
Yeah, grades K through 8th, upcoming kindergartners are welcome. If I remember reading that correctly, K through 8th grade, they're going to learn all the different positions. chapelhillbc.org. chapelhillbc.org. And Jonathan Richey spelled Richey. Make sure you spell it, not the IE. If you're looking for him, that's the one you want to choose. But we'll continue to promote this and push people that way. And also the interview that we had earlier in the program that covered the camp in its entirety can be found at Tide1029.com. It has more specific information. Someone on Facebook, Robert Saucier, says hello. Do you know that guy?
I know the sauce.
He said, tell Richie I said hi, my favorite QB I played with. So kind of strong. Robert's a regular part of my program. He joins in. Of course, he's an hour ahead. So
he is. He's in Virginia, right?
Yeah, I think is Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore. That's
Baltimore.
Right.
So he's a regular part, but it's 7:00 for him. And he gets on here talking about it's early. I'm thinking, dude, you ought to be in the Central time zone. But Robert's a great contributor. And he just brought up, I told you I was going to throw a little bit around the capstone. We try to do that to get to other sports. He and I are talking about Coach Patrick Murphy, who you've met, and what he's done is amazing to me in building a program, building his own fan base, not depending on Alabama football fan base or anything. But Jonathan, when it comes to competing, this team went through a tough season for Alabama standards, for Alabama softball standards. But they went down to Florida last night and got a 3-0 win. Of course, Robert points out, hey, they need to string together some hits, can't depend on walks and errors. But when you look at their pitching in that game, if you have in softball, if you have a couple of dominant pitchers, you can compete. So do you know much about the softball at all?
Well, I know Coach Murphy. You talk about his fan base. He built his fan base because of the kind of person he is. He's a great guy. I don't know if you ever sat down and talked to him. I met him several years ago. I was actually at Zoe's in Northport and walked in. I said, hey, that's Coach Murphy. I just went up to him and said, hey, I just want to appreciate what you do for the university. And this is kind of when they were starting to hit their stride, probably like 05 in that range. And I think that was their first super regional right after that. And he says, hey, sit down and talk to me for a little bit. 2 hours later, I get up, and he kind of tells me all about the softball and what it does. And, funny thing is I saw him working out at the gym a couple of days ago. He said, hey, we need to go grab some lunch whenever we can catch up for a while. And I said, I hope I don't see you for a couple of weeks. He said, I hope so too. And then they go down and get, win 3-0 last night. And they actually had it on the gym where we work out. He works out at the same gym.
Yeah,
so.
You can mention that. That's one of my sponsors.
Oh, okay.
Northridge Fitness is one of my
Northridge Fitness is where we work out. He's there. So we were just kind of having a little bit of conversation. And unique thing is he doesn't get bombarded when he's in there. He's in his zone and he works out and then he kind of goes on. But as far as softball goes, I was watching it last night, and if I'm correct, because I watched it this weekend, when they played Minnesota in that regional here, the first regional here that they had in Tuscaloosa, Aserio hadn't allowed a run, I don't think, in like 3 appearances.
They've given up 1 run in their last 4 postseason games. They won 5-1, 1-0, 1-0, 3-0, and I'm telling you, dominant pitching in that game. It can matter, and I know they got some runs on a couple of errors, but you know what? If we keep saying it, they're going to have to string together some runs. Well, they're going to either have to string together some runs or keep dominating in the pitching game. They're in every game, and if the bats, I told someone, if the bats come alive, we may find out this may be 2 of the best pitchers he's had. They just hadn't had the run support. The reason we don't talk about how good they are.
Well, they said that, I think on ESPN when we watched the game this weekend, the run production were down. Some of the stats for some of the girls were down. And, it's like anything, though. If you hit a stride, they had a stat yesterday when watching the game. They had a period there. I think they were like only, lost 8 of 13 games. But, what have they done since then? Because they started winning at the, they talk about this in March Madness, kind of hitting that stride and that run. And, now they're kind of doing it because, you look at some of the defensive plays, it's also kept runs from being scored.
Yeah.
So it's a total team effort when you look at what they've been able to do. I mean, it's phenomenal because I think you look at some play, people might have wrote them off a little bit as not being a good team because they didn't win 50 games or anything like that. But you look at what they're doing, though, Minnesota had lost 3 games all year.
And they beat them twice.
In the one weekend. Florida was the number 1 overall seed. Their pitcher, if you look at, I think I saw the stat, was like .35 ERA.
Yeah, unbelievable. And we're not going to get too deep in this conversation. I'm gonna give it probably a little weekend, but just Alabama baseball fans, I want you to know I'm going to throw the gauntlet down on you because of the Greg Goff situation at Alabama. He's out. But are we going to bring a new coach into the exact same limited situation to compete? 11.7 scholarships. Not going to have a lottery by the time the new coach comes, and I hope we don't ever have one because of the families that it really impacts. I know it benefits a lot, but it also impacts a lot. It's not a revenue generator as a whole. And then when you look at but there are other ways to get around this. Coach Bryant has a scholarship where all of his former players get scholarships to the University of Alabama. There's other types of ways Alabama. Vanderbilt has an endowment, a large endowment scholarship that they use. Hey, baseball, it's time to put up or shut up. All of you fans who cried out for him out. Now let's see if you're going to go in your wallets. Put your money where your mouth is, okay? So that's going to be my challenge. I'm not going to get into it now because we're going to get the break here, and I want to get Jonathan. I cannot let a quarterback come through the studio and not have I'm breaking my censorship. The censorship is lifted. A Tua and Jalen conversation. That coming on the other side of the break right here on your home for Alabama Sports Talk 102.9 and 100.9. Hard to believe we almost have another one in the book. It's normally our 2-minute warning, so might as well, in honor of our 2-minute warning, the fourth quarter 2-minute warning, is put Jonathan on the hot seat. Big time debate. Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa. When you look at this quarterback situation, first of all, I want to get your thoughts and your opinion on what Jalen Hurts did as a freshman and just your unadulterated opinion of him and his performance.
You know, what can you say, really? You had a true freshman come in and do something that no one's ever done that Saban has coached, and that's start. No one has done at the university since Vince Sutton back in the 80s. Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about that, what he was able to do, plus in the situations he was put in. So it takes a tremendous amount of maturity, and you saw that in his play. He didn't get rattled, especially you look at the Ole Miss game, you look at the LSU game. Things didn't always go right. So, I mean, if you look at that and evaluate that and what he does, he's got a tremendous amount of skills as a quarterback, especially as an athlete. So, I mean, what he was able to do, I mean, he was Offensive Player of the Year in the SEC. No other player has done that since Herschel Walker. So that's a pretty good league to be in. Yeah,
he's in some elite company. So when you look at that, and then the Tua coming in, did you get to see the 8A game?
I did. I watched the 8A game.
What was your takeaway when you watched both of those quarterbacks? Kind of give us your takeaway on those guys and what you saw in the 8A game.
You know, with the 8A game, I think how they look too is kind of a you look at their offensive style from a coordinator standpoint, what plays are going to be called. You know, last year I thought there was a lot of short passes for Jalen that were called. You never really got to see his true arm strength. The vertical pass downfield. But looking at the 8A game, it's hard to tell really because the first half was very vanilla on defense. You saw a little bit of difference when they started blitzing a little bit, changing things up, and that's the real thing is that in college they show you one thing, then they drop to something else, and you got to be able to react real quick. But from a fundamental skill set, both quarterbacks are very athletically gifted, very humble and calm, cool, and collective. I mean, if you look at Tua. Coming in again, he should be in the spring of his senior year. And think about this: he's on a 4-hour time change. Generally having to adjust to that. And so what he was able to do in that spring game was impressive because for most of us, that's all we ever get to see. I know with the coaches, they see it every day. They'll see it in the spring. And the scary thing is they're only going to get better. Yeah. And so them getting better together is going to push one another. Yeah. So that's the fun thing it's going to be to watch.
All right. Speaking with Jonathan Richey, former quarterback, walk-on at the University of Alabama. Jonathan, one last question regarding that conversation. From year one to year two, from high school to college is big, but what happens in a quarterback's mind? Why is it that quarterbacks make such a huge jump like in their second year at the next level? It's not just the scheme. It's like from middle school to high school, that quarterback makes the change. High school to college, it makes the change. So it's something about that second year. What is it about the game that changes or slows down or what?
Well, I think in that transition, that first year, everything's fast-paced, right? And so, Tua being here in the spring gives him the summer to absorb a lot of the educational components that it takes to be a quarterback. The film, the additional things, to slow things down, to think things through, and prepare your mind and your body for what's going to happen. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me. It was, when I came in, you look at things, everything's fast paced. You got your receivers are much faster than you had in high school. Everyone's bigger, stronger, and faster. But it's just it's a calming thing. Is that, hey, I'm here. I'm acclimated to this process now. I understand the responsibility, the time commitment, the constraints, because it's not, those kids spend as much time as most people working each week.
Right.
So, and not to mention the football. And see, there's a lot of volunteer stuff that they do to get ready as well. So we're watching additional film. So you look at it and, those guys will be very prepared, but that'll be the transition. That's what's going to give Tua. That's what made Jalen what he was, because he was an early enrollee.
Right. So he had the equivalent of you and I when we came. If you don't make it in those first 2 weeks of your freshman year, you're pretty much redshirted.
You're redshirted,
yeah. And now you're learning the scout team.
You're spending on scout team. And scout team, if you understand, is when I was there, you would be a part of your team meetings, but then sometimes you would leave to go to a scout team meeting.
Yes.
And so you're learning the defense of the
Correct.
opposing team, so you miss some of the vital things that you might otherwise pick up.
So these redshirt freshmen, these freshmen now are about the equivalent of our redshirt year for the most part, because it has become a year-round thing. But one thing that is missing at the high school, younger kid level is good education, teaching the game of football. A lot of parents are worried. Why should parents bring their kids to 3rd and 17 Challenge Your Faith Football and Life Camp on next Saturday, June 3rd?
Well, it gives them an opportunity just to explore where they're going to be. One of the key things, like I said, is it's not, hey, a quarterback receiver camp. It's a football camp, and each kid gets an opportunity to be an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, a running back, fullback, a quarterback, wide receiver, defensive back. We don't really know where they're going to specialize as they get older. Their bodies are going to change. They're going to grow taller, faster, get bigger and stronger. And so it's an opportunity for them just to come out, get some good coaching. That's one of the things we pride ourselves on. Have a good time, okay? At the same time, we try to minimize the cost so it's affordable to pretty much everyone, to pretty much $25 to cover our costs of just for the event that day.
And that $25 is your registration, your lunch, your jersey, and everything, all inclusive for that $25. Parents are welcome to stay. That's the 3rd and 17 Challenge Faith Football and Life, hosted by Jonathan Richey, former Alabama quarterback, right here at the University of Alabama, SEC champion. So you're going to get great coaching along with him and other former players, and current high school coaches going to be there to help. You want to be a part of this from 9 to 1, lunch included. Registration starts at 8. It's at Chapel Hill Baptist Church up on Highway 43. You can go to chapelhillbc.org and get the information to register, as well as find out the exact location. And hey, I can relate to that. I was a kid that was always over the weight limit, but I was always one of the faster kids. So until I was in middle school, I didn't get to play running back. I was fortunate that a coach gave me an opportunity in a 7th grade game to play running back, because he had seen, wow, this lineman here is as fast as everybody else. Well, if I'd had an opportunity to do some camps, then that would have been something found out even earlier. And my son's in the same boat. He's 5'9", 220 in 8th grade. So he finally got to move to running back. So I can relate to getting that opportunity. So it's a great opportunity for kids. Parents, you want to be a part of this. We're going to continue to talk about this, and we'll have Jonathan come back in maybe next week and highlight this as well. So, but that's Jonathan Richey, former quarterback at the University of Alabama, SEC champion, hosting the 3rd and 17 Challenge Faith Football and Life. Go to chapelhillbc.org to get more information, or check out our website, tide1029.com. You can see that. Also, look him up on Facebook, Jonathan Richey, Richey. Thanks, Jonathan, and we'll catch up next week and maybe have you come in. And as we get closer to the season, definitely going to have you come back in and talk.